This is where I store all of my eyeshadows. I have quite a bit, goes all the way down. So I thought we would do an updated eyeshadow palette collection video, and there might even be some declutters along the way. So let's get started. We are starting off with my Glamlight collection. I will let you know nothing is leaving from this. Glamlight is one of my favorite brands. First, we have the Glamlight Paint Pro palette, so beautiful. The Michaela Part 2 eyeshadow palette. Next is the Glamlight Donut palette. This is the Pie palette. Taco palette. Their food palettes are my favorite. The Scooby-Doo palette. Red Velvet Cupcake palette. The other Michaela Part 2 palette. Ghostface palette. These are by far like my favorite aside from the food palettes. I am a horror movie lover, so them coming out with these was amazing, especially Ghostface. I got the whole PR box. This is the Friday the 13th palette, the Burger Slider palette, the Blue Raspberry Icy palette. I love ices. I go through phases where I crave them, and I usually either do Coca-Cola or I will mix the Coke with the cherry. And here is the Cherry Icy palette. This is the Street Taco palette, Hershey's Kisses Special Dark, Hershey's Kisses Lava Cake, Nightmare on Elm Street Never Sleep Again, and the Freddy Krueger one, Glamlight Pizza Slice Meat Lovers, and the Veggie Lovers Pizza Slice, Scooby-Doo Rut-Row Raggy, Scooby-Doo Creeps and Crawls. This is the Garfield palette, the Margarita palette, and just look at those shimmers. They do such a phenomenal job with their shimmer shades. The Burger palette, the Cake palette, the Pizza palette, the first Michaela palette. This is the Ice Cream palette, the Paint palette, and lastly, but certainly not least, the Chocolate Donut palette. Just for my Glamlight collection alone, that makes 31 eyeshadow palettes. Next section is all of my Jeffree Star Cosmetics palettes. I have every single palette that he's ever done, so we're going to go through these. I will let you know again, nothing's going to be disappearing from this collection. This is more of a makeup collection, eyeshadow collection video than it is a declutter, but don't worry, I do have some sections coming up where there will be some stuff going away. This is the Alien palette, the Blood Money palette, Blood Sugar palette, the Pricked palette, such a perfect palette for fall, Psychedelic Circus, Mini Jawbreaker, Mini Controversy. This is the Mini Blood Sugar, I believe. This is the Star Ranch palette. This is the Anniversary Blood Sugar palette. Yes, I bought both. Again, it's the collector and me, and this one I've never even used, swatched, nothing, because it's in that white packaging and I'm so afraid of getting it dirty. But yes, I have it mainly as a collector's piece. This is Blue Blood. This is Beauty Killer 2, one of the palettes that I've still yet to use. It's on my list of palettes that I need to use, and I can't believe I let it sit here for so long. It is so pretty. I want to dive into that like lime green shade so bad. And this is the original Beauty Killer palette. Again, fun fact, I have not used this before. I have swatched it, but I have never actually played with it. I know, I'm crazy. I have a list of palettes that I'm like, I can't believe I haven't used, but this is on that list as well. This is the gorgeous Cotton Candy Queen palette. This is the Thirsty palette. So sad that they discontinued this. Who misses this palette? It's such a perfect beachy themed palette. I'm not going to say the name of this palette, but we all know which one this is. This is the Jawbreaker palette. I think this was the first palette that I actually bought from him when I started getting into his collection, and then just started getting all of his other ones after that. This is the Cremated palette, the most perfect cool tone black gray palette. So gorgeous. This is the Star Wedding palette. This is the Conspiracy palette. My dog is so invested in what I'm doing. I loved this palette so much. This is the Bloodlust palette. The packaging itself is just gorgeous. This is the Banana Fetish palette, and I know I've used this palette and it looks like I haven't, but I swear I have. This is the Androgyny palette, and I think it is such a perfect palette for fall as well as the Pricked one. Then we have the Pink Religion palette. This is the Scorpio palette. This is the Weirdo palette. Again, another palette that I have not used yet, but I have swatched it. This is also another palette that I cannot say the name to it, but it's the sister to the other one. If you know, you know. And last, I think his newest palette, I can't remember if this one came out first or the last or the Scorpio one did, but either way, this is one of the last ones out of those two. And this is what she looks like. And all of them counted up makes 28. This next section is my Morphe palettes, and I believe there's going to be some in here that I want to get rid of. But first, what I'm going to do is show you all the palettes in my collection and then take some time to go through these. First, we have the Morphe X Meredith Duxbury. This is the smaller palette. This is such a good highlighter on the face. It looks beautiful. We've got the 35A Up Till Dawn palette. Again, another palette that I have not used. And these greens are so pretty. And this is the Meredith Duxbury 35 pan palette. This is the 35D Desert Rose palette. Again, another palette that I have not used. Actually, I don't think it's Desert Rose. I think it's Desert Bouquet. Yeah, Desert Bouquet. But yeah, another palette that I have not used. This is the palette in collaboration with Nikita. This is the 35C Everyday Chic palette. I think that's what it's called. Yep. And it is such a pretty cool toned palette. This is the 35U Gilded Desert palette. Is that right? Yep. And this is such a perfect, like, cool tone neutral palette. It is so pretty. I have used this, but I think I've only used it like once. This is the Giant James Charles palette. I used to use this all the time, especially when it first launched. This is so old. I was working at Ulta when this palette launched at Ulta. This is the Jaclyn Hill Vault Armed and Gorgeous palette. This is the Vault Ring the Alarm, the Vault Dark Magic, and the Vault Bling Boss. Oh, that was a tongue twister. Bling Boss. This is the Maddie Ziegler collaboration. This is the Avani Gregg collaboration. The Jeffree Star palette. This is the Ashley Strong palette. I honestly don't even know who that is, but I ended up really liking this palette, and I found it at TJ Maxx or Marshall, so I didn't even pay like the full price of it, but I thought it was really pretty in like earthy tones. This is the Sour Patch Kids. This is the Nyan Fierce Fairy Tale palette. I've swatched this palette, but this is another one that I still haven't used. This is the 24A Artist Pass palette. This is the Coca-Cola palette. I am a Coca-Cola girly through and through. This is the Jaclyn Hill Divine Neutrals palette. The Jaclyn Volume 2 palette. The 35I Ice Fantasy. The 35S Sweet Oasis. And the original Jaclyn Hill palette. Yes, it is completely beaten up. I think this is like the first palette that I ever actually owned, and I just don't ever want to let it go. I know it's so old, but it's just so nostalgic. Alright, so I started out with 25 palettes in total, but I have 8 here that I'm getting rid of. We're going to get rid of the Ashley Strong palette, the Avani Gregg, the 24A Artist Pass, the Desert Bouquet, the James Charles, the Nikita, the Nyan Fairy Tale, and the Sweet Oasis. Next section is all of my Colourpop palettes. We have Orange You Glad. This is Honey, Aura and Out, Just My Luck, Lilac You a Lot, the Thumper palette from the Bambi collection, Wild Child, Mint to Be, Miss Bliss, Baby Got Peach, Baroque, Grandeur, Taurus, Little Ray of Sunshine, Elsa, Hocus Pocus Witching Hour, In a Trance, Wine and Only, Main Squeeze, Tinkerbell, Cloud Spun, Anna, She's Got Solstice, The Child, Blue Moon, Fade Into Hue, Harry Potter, It's a Mood, Powerpuff Girls, On the List, What Dreams Are Made Of, Garden Variety, Hocus Pocus Gather Round Sisters, Hocus Pocus 2 All Hallows Eve, Alright, so in total I have 34 Colourpop palettes, but we are getting rid of 11 and keeping 23. So we're still keeping quite a bit, but I did have a lot that I just don't need anymore or honestly never used. So I'm glad that we were able to downsize that a little bit. Go ahead and head to part 2. Welcome to part 2 of me going through my eyeshadow palette collection. There also might be a couple of declutters within this, but mainly just an eyeshadow palette update of my collection. This next section here is indie brands or just brands that like ABH, where I don't have enough palettes to have like its own shelf. So that's kind of all the mixture is here. So we're going to go ahead and go through what I have here. First we have the ABH Fall Romance, ABH Norvina, ABH Carly Bible, ABH Sultry, ABH Riviera, Lunar Beauty X Laura Lee Full Fantasy Palette, Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag Facelift, Lunar Beauty Moonspell, Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2, Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse, Lunar Beauty Nude Prism, Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset, Lunar Beauty Strawberry Dream, Lunar Beauty 12 Days of Lunar, Urban Decay Wild Greens, Urban Decay She-Hulk, Urban Decay Naked Cherry, Urban Decay Wild West, Urban Decay Ultraviolet, Laura Lee Boss Babe, Laura Lee Party Animal, Laura Lee Nudie 2, Laura Lee Candy Skies, Laura Lee Nudie Batootie, Laura Lee Cat's Pajamas, Dragon Beauty Volume 3 Fantasy Palette, Natasha Denona Pastel Palette, Natasha Denona Mini Triochrome Palette, Ofra X Ally Dawson Falling in Love, Ofra Pro Palette, Too Faced Kitty Likes to Scratch, Too Faced Light My Fire, Kylie Cosmetics A Nightmare on Elm Street, Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana, Beauty Bay X Nikki Tutorials, Unicorn Gang Shop Secrets of the Fae, Tarte Maneater After Dark, Tarte Maneater Nightfall, Jaclyn Cosmetics Strawberry Feels, Jaclyn Cosmetics Luxe Legacy, Tati Beauty Volume 1, Blend Bunny Surge, Blend Bunny Primal, Blend Bunny Blends, and Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet. So I had 45 palettes in this section, and these are the 7 that I'm getting rid of. We've got the ABH Sultry, ABH Norvina, the ABH Carly Bible, the Dragon Beauty Volume 3, Laura Lee Cat's Pajamas, Urban Decay Naked Cherry, and the Natasha Denona Mini Triochrome. And this is my last section here, which is all like affordable and or drugstore palettes. First we have Beetlejuice, Makeup or Murder Burner Phone, I Heart Revolution Elf, Ulta Beauty Thor Love and Thunder, Ulta Beauty Avengers, Alter Ego Aurora, Essence Welcome to Sin City, Wet n Wild Stitch, Wet n Wild SpongeBob, Makeup Revolution The Grinch, Makeup Revolution X Beetlejuice I Myself Am Strange and Unusual, Profusion Harvest, Profusion Ethereal, Juvia's Place Garden of Juvia's, Juvia's Place Mints, Juvia's Place Army, Juvia's Place I Live I Love Ice, Juvia's Place The Violets, Juvia's Place I Live I Love, Juvia's Place Afro Galactic, Juvia's Place Culture, Juvia's Place Culture 2, Ulta Beauty Gilmore Girls, Profusion X Mean Girls, Profusion X Jurassic World. This is an eyeshadow palette made by a makeup artist I went to school with. Her name is Nuri MUA. Exotic Flavors by You Can Be, BH Cosmetics Sugar Cone, BH Cosmetics Pistachio, BH Cosmetics Bubblegum, BH Cosmetics Cotton Candy, BH Cosmetics Orange Sorbet, BH Cosmetics Cherry on Top, and the Harry Potter X She Glam palettes. I'll show them one by one. Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin. All right, we are all finished with the eyeshadow palette collection. I went through and kind of reorganized some stuff. I actually cleared out one box and kind of turned it into my little jewelry area. So I had a total of 201 eyeshadow palettes. I decluttered 33, so now I have 168.